Andy?
Why is there no swing cost in your model?
Well, we just wanted to make things simple, and I have to admit, people complain about this all the time. Another simplification we made was we actually treated the step length as fixed. And even 20 years ago, we were writing about how, basically things like swing cost and changing step length. The point is just that we want to capture a cost which we think accounts for enough of the overall metabolic cost that it can make a prediction, and then we want to test that. We're also lazy, and we want the optimization to be as easy as possible. And so when you make the simplifications we're talking about here, you get a convex problem, and actually maybe I'll show the sensitivity plot. We should have a hidden slide. Where's the hidden slide?
Well,
Oh, okay. I moved too far. Okay, let me try to show a sensitivity plot. Okay, so this is kind of a funny thing because I've been working with this simplest walking model for over 20 years, and I didn't realize that it has this really incredibly simple. Oh, this is not going to show because this is okay. I have to escape. Okay, when we see it, we should be able to identify it.
but it's hidden.
Is this the hidden slide? No.
Why don't you just say what you
There it
want
is.
to do?
Okay. Okay, so this is for a single step. And this is versus push off. The time cost always increases as you get to smaller push offs. The work cost always increases with push off. You can sort of flip that and talk about, well, I guess this is the same thing, but this is for the overall task. So this is for one step. This is for many steps. And this is showing a similar kind of sensitivity. It's a change in that cost versus push off. And then the optimum is here. And then as you decrease push off, the time cost always goes up. The work cost always goes down. These are scaled. Time is scaled by CT, the Lagrange multiplier. So that then if you add these two together, they give you a bowl shape, and the minimum is at the dot. And so now so this is for one push off, but now you can string them all together. So each push off adds one dimension to your decision space. And so a lot of times it's hard to think about what is the shape of this multi-dimensional sensitivity. And the answer is it's very simple. So this is step 0, the gate initiation. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see you always have this same trade-off between work and time. So this is super easy to solve the optimization. In principle, we could solve this also with a swing cost and for changing step lengths. But we wanted something that's just dead simple. We also wanted to avoid any hidden parameters. So there's only one free parameter in everything you've seen so far, which is CT. And that free parameter was not even free for which cases? For uneven terrain and for the Briquisto quo. And then when it was a free parameter, we were able to fit it, as Ryan demonstrated, with a single observation, say of fixed distance walking, and then we can predict lots of other cases. And the reason why we wanted to do that is because everyone should be suspicious of models being overfitted. I think especially in biomechanics, when people declare that they have done a great job with the model, my opinion is those models are very brittle and will break if you subject them to other conditions. Here, we only have CT, so there are no tricks here. Everything was a prediction from a model. The model was not jiggled in order to produce the data other than finding one CT per subject. And the idea is that it's completely clean. There's nothing hidden from you. If we included a swing cost or changing step lengths, we believe we could include that, but then we'd need a couple other parameters, and then that starts to cloud things. So the idea is to try to make a prediction that is hopefully somewhat hard to guess and test it.
But, okay, so that's, I mean, your whole speech is about modeling in general, right?
Yes.
But, I mean, you could have said you would have swings, but you don't have a time cost. So, I mean, there's a question of, did you predict some things, and it's good, but how much was you messed up by the stuff you left out?
Well, we believe the swing cost adds significantly to regular walking and actually helps determine the preferred step length. But again, we hypothesize that the step-to-step transition accounts for the majority of the metabolic cost for walking. If it accounts for enough, then it should be helpful for making a prediction. And so why not?
So your step, you fixed your step length, is that right?
Yes, it's just fixed for everything.
So some of your calculations had fixed time, right? So the swing would not enter the
Yes.
calculation.
And then what Jared
It should also
showed.
work in the same
Correct, what I
direction, right? So work costs increase with speed, swing costs should also increase with speed. So it should just be really just another trade-off with time.
But when you fix this as unfixed time, the swing doesn't come in, right?
No, it should come in to some degree, just by some amount that we don't think it's a big amount, but it should contribute. Okay, I meant to show the trajectories. Okay, so we didn't explain this, but the reason why you see so many curves here is because this includes 3 different fixed step lengths, plus a variable step length, which is corresponding to the human preferred step length. And this includes varying CT across the cost of time across a factor of 10. And the idea is that no matter what, the model is stuck. It always predicts a similar shape. Those parameters matter in some details, but these details we would say are too small for us to resolve experimentally. So it would take a little bit more experimentation to be able to test those contributions. So we're not saying those costs don't exist. We're just saying that the cost that we are proposing exists is enough to make a prediction. Okay, so I think I saw Daniel, Zach, and Aaron.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks for the talk. It was really interesting. I was a little bit confused about the deviation from a straight line. So originally I thought, okay, you're talking about curving around, and you had this plot like it is cheaper to curve around an obstacle. And then I looked at your experiments, and it seemed like you curve vertically, so trading potential energy for kinetic energy might be more efficient. And so I was wondering, is it one or the other or both that you were showing here as a deviation from a straight line from A to B?
We intentionally tricked you by saying straight line. We expected everyone would think we mean something like this, and they would object to that, and hopefully they would be interested in this talk. However, technically, I don't think we were wrong. We said the most economical walking path is not a straight line, and what we tested is not a straight line. It's just not in the direction that you were expecting. We don't blame you at all. Thank you for falling for our trick.
So it is only vertical?
It is only a vertical path.
Okay.
Now, we do think that there's another cheat that people took, which our model did not take. Our model comes to a complete stop, but then our subjects had a little bit of room at the end of every platform, and so they would do something like this. So they would carry a little bit of momentum through, which actually, in our opinion, hurts our prediction. But you know, there's some mismatch between humans and the mouse.
All right. I wanted to actually tag on to something I think was said earlier about like kind of this perception thing. I'm wondering like how much that matters in these anticipatory behaviors that you're kind of pointing out here. Like so in particular, I would ask the question, if I put like a VR headset on someone that showed a flat ground and then have them walk on the curve thing in real life, because as you say, it's pretty gentle, right? And maybe not that perceptible physically. What do you think would happen?
Okay, we don't know what would happen. We do think that it is important, at least, that humans adapt to the terrain. You could imagine that humans would insist they're going to push off by the same amount as level terrain no matter what, and then that would be a bad idea. They would probably miss the time constraint because we were asking them to match the same overall speed on both terrains. So the answer is I don't know, but it would violate the experiment because they would push off more and they would save some time, so they would be too fast. So you couldn't evaluate it in terms, I believe, you couldn't evaluate it in terms of extra cost, which should be there, but you would also be comparing against a different speed. So how do you do that comparison?
Why would it be a different speed?
Because if you did the same push-offs as level terrain, well, first of all, according to optimization, the level terrain involves bigger push-offs. And because of the convexity, we know that bigger push-offs always are going to result in shorter time. And so,
all I'm trying to get at is if I were to visually trick someone, show them something with their eyes that isn't what's actually there, and have them perform the same task.
okay, so you're not saying they necessarily insist on walking along.
No, I want to do the
They
exact same
expect.
experiment,
They
but I
expect.
want to trick their eyes into thinking it's flat. And I'm wondering specifically about this anticipatory behavior you're showing, right, where I see what's coming ahead, and I'm doing these, like you're actually speeding up before you hit the terrain, et cetera, right? So I'm wondering, like, if you got rid of visual perception or you tricked the visual perception, would you get the same behavior? Do you think, for example, would people, after several runs back and forth, would they intuit this physically, or do they need the vision?
Well, the whole ramp is not that wide, so you have some issues of just staying on. Let's try to ignore that. I guess we could presume that what people would do is after a few runs, yes, they might figure it out and they would do it. Now, about 15 years ago at JFK, there was a little walkway that was actually quite short and it was very bouncy, and in fact it was already, I don't know if it was sagging or something, but it sort of had a nice shape. And that thing was so much fun to walk on. And so I would like to think that people would sort of adapt.
Super cool work.
Last question.
Did I understand, maybe I misunderstood, but on the uneven terrain, was the model prediction a bit lower? I don't remember what was the range, maybe 0.7 or something?
Austin, did you hear the question?
Could you repeat it?
The question was, on the uneven terrain, was the agreement between model and human a little bit worse?
In the complex terrain?
In the complex terrain. And I'm trying to get us there.
Yes, correlation is a little lower.
Yes, so our worst correlations were indeed here and here for the most complex terrains. We don't have a great explanation for that, except to say that we think that, I guess our interpretation is that humans are a little bit, can sometimes be a little bit low-pass filtery. So, if you're, let's say you went downhill and you gained some speed, and then there's one little bump on the bottom before you go up again, you might cheat a little bit. And so remember, we're stuck with an inverted pendulum model, but I think a sensible thing to do is if I just came down and I'm going fast, I might not be an inverted pendulum. I might, on this step, I might step through with a bent leg, and so my center of mass moves more horizontally. That is a bad idea for a long amount of time, but it's a great idea for a short period of time.
Maybe to go a little bit more into the line of thought I was having is that when we encounter an uneven terrain, maybe the first principles are not then only energy and time can take the full complexity of the task that we have in hand, and maybe something else comes in play then. And then maybe I would say that the brain has to find a way also to reach the point B, so not to fall down. So maybe other things are coming in play other than these two principles, would be just an idea.
Well, we would never claim that we have discovered the entire objective function for humans. We're just saying we found enough of it to make a prediction. But just addressing falling down, there's a great lesson from the Deep Mind paper, the one where they were going over crazy terrain. So the objective function they had, the rewards were given for basically making forward progress. And there was nothing about stability. And also earlier in my life, I did work on stability and used things like linearized eigenvalues of the return map. And I think that stuff is interesting. But it's not necessarily true that you need an objective that includes make this thing stable. Because if you make forward progress well and it's feasible, then you kind of solve the stability problem. In fact, making forward progress, it could be that there are times when it's basically close to impossible to fall, and you might be better off falling than struggling really hard to avoid it. And so the lesson that I took from that paper is that some of these things that we might expect have to be in the cost function don't have to be in the cost function, or maybe they're already built into the cost function. Are we still talking, or?
Very low.
Yeah, okay, and
So just your main final result is if I'm going from A to B and they're not too far apart, if I go on level ground, it takes me some, and I have a certain fixed time, I go on level ground, it takes me some effort. And if I go on your Christochrome path, it takes less effort. So there's three different costs there. So there's a level ground at constant speed, and there's a two stop-to-stop positions. How different are they? And the question is do you know that there's not some speed at which, maybe some lower than preferred speed, that it would be easier to walk on the sequence of these curves than to walk at that low speed on level ground? Do you know that there's no such, that there is not such a thing?
we don't know. So these work and time trade-offs, we don't know whether, we suspect they are not convex in the terrain height decision variable. And so we believe that the terrain part is a local minimum, even though the work for that terrain is convex, at least for this simple model. So the answer is we don't know. My suspicion is that steady walking on flat ground is the optimum, but not sure. Now, if you just talk globally, I do think globally, for a really long time, it is optimal to occasionally stop and say, tie your shoelace and pee and things like that. So again, I'm not claiming that energy and time are absolutely the only things that people care about, but this is a sort of simple way to think about what governs these kinds of more everyday behaviors.
But like you said, it was fun to walk on that walkway. in the JFK. I could imagine it would be fun, maybe it's fun if you're gonna walk in JFK for a kilometer, it might be fun to walk on this sort of hippie surface, no? You know that the fun might be easy, might be easy.
It might be.